Hi everyone. Today we celebrate Constitution Day. Now, in this lecture, we will try to know the history behind the Constitution Day and some important facts and historical background of the Indian Constitution, or you can say the framing of Indian Constitution. Constitution Day, also known as Samvidhan Divas, is celebrated in the country on 26 November every year to commemorate the adoption of the Constitution of India. It commemorates the adoption of Constitution of India back in 1949. Yes, on 26 November 1949, the Constituent Assembly of India adopted our Constitution, which came into effect on 26 January 1950. So don't confuse. 26 November 1949, this was the date when the Constituent Assembly of India adopted the Constitution, and in reality, the Constitution came into effect on 26 January 1950. Now, the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment on 19 November 2015 notified the decision of Government of India to celebrate the 26th day of November every year as the Samvidhan Divas, or you can say Constitution Day, to promote the Constitution values among citizens. So it's the ministry associated with Samvidhan Divas or Constitution Day is the Ministry of Social Justice and Empower, from which year we started celebrating this, from which year you have to say that this Constitution Day was notified, and that was 2015. Now let's talk about some historical backgrounds of the Constitution, or you can say how our Constitution being framed. You know, the Constituent Assembly, which was the body meant to draft the Constitution, conducted its first session on 9 December 1946. Remember this date. 9 December 1946 was the date when the first session of Constituent Assembly was held. But the demand of the Constitution was made as early as in the 1934. M.N. Roy, a Communist Party leader, introduced this idea of framing the Constitution, and it was taken up by the Congress Party, and finally in 1940, the demand was accepted by the British government. Before independence, the Constituent Assembly met for the first time on which date? We just discussed 9 December 1946. And Dr. Sasidananda Sinha was appointed as the first president of the Constituent Assembly. Remember his name. Okay. Now, the Constituent Assembly took how much time to complete this drafting of Constitution? The time was 2 years. Total time taken was 2 years, 11 months, 17 days. Remember, 2 years, 11 months, and 17 days to complete this historic task of drafting the Constitution for independent India. Now, during this period, it held 11 sessions covering a total of 165. That may be also part of MCQ, that how many sessions being conducted during this 2 years, 11 months, 17 days period of drafting the Constitution. So answer is 11 sessions and overall 165 days. And of this, 114 days were spent on the consideration of the draft Constitution. Jawaharlal Nehru, the then Prime Minister, moved the Objectives Resolution on 13 December 1946. And this was later adopted as the preamble on 22 January 1947. So again, one important question is that who first moved the Objective Resolution? And he was Jawaharlal Nehru. And that was actually later adopted as preamble on 22 January 1947. On 29 August 1947, a drafting committee was constituted to prepare the draft constitution with Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the chairman. On 26 November 1949, the Constituent Assembly adopted this constitution of our India that came into effect from 26 January 1950. And what is the significance of this day? Because because this 26th November or the current today, this day aims to bring awareness to the importance of Indian Constitution as well as its main architect, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Okay. Now, our constitutions took actually to frame the whole constitution take 2 years, 11 months, 70 days. You got it. Now, how many members? 299 members in the Constituent Assembly, and 15 were women when the Constitution was adopted in 1949, and 284 members finally signed it. Remember, Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. You have heard Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, right? I told you Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, on seniority basis, he was first appointed as the first president, but later who became the president, or you can say chairman of the Constituent Assembly? Chairman of the Constituent Assembly was Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Now, Constitution of India is framed by Constituent Assembly. Now, it had a total of 13 committees, 8 major committees, and the rest are minor ones. And we have seen that in exam, they used to ask questions from about these major committees and who actually are the chairmen of those committees. So some important committees are like Drafting Committee, B.R. Ambedkar, Union Power Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru, Union Constitution Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru, Provincial Constitution Committee, none other than our Vallabhbhai Patel, Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities, and Tribal and Excluded Areas, Vallabhbhai Patel, Rules of Procedure Committee, Rajendra Prasad, States Committee, that is committees for negotiating with states, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Steering Committee, Rajendra Prasad. We have to be very much aware with these different committees and the associated chairman. Now, you know, our constitution has been framed by taking the sources from different other constitutions. What are those sources? First of all, Government of India Act 1935. And the features borrowed from this Government of India Act 1935 are like Federal Scheme, Office of Governor, Judiciary, Public Service Commission, Emergency Provisions, and Administrative Details. Because you know, before independence, this was the act which actually frames the rules and regulations, and our constitution derive a major portion from this Government of India Act 1935. Then British Constitution. Yes, British Constitution is known for the parliamentary government. So the parliamentary government portion has been taken from this constitution, British Constitution. Then rule of law, legislative procedure, single citizenship. So this is again important, rule of law from British Constitution. Then single citizenship, cabinet system, then prerogative reach, parliamentary privileges, and bicameralism. Yes, bicameralism is also taken from British Constitution. Then from US Constitution, fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, judicial review, impeachment of the president, removal of Supreme Court and High Court justices, and post of vice. Okay, I'm again repeating the thing. So you have seen that from US Constitution, we are taking fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, judicial review, impeachment of the president, removal of the Supreme Court, High Court justices, and post of vice president. They are from US Constitution. Then from Irish Constitution, directive principles of state policy, nominative, or you can say nomination of members of Rajya Sabha, and methods of election of president. Yes, you know, in Rajya Sabha, nomination of members taken place. So this nomination of members to Rajya Sabha taken from Irish Constitution. Okay, this concept. Then Canadian Constitution, federation with a strong center, means unitary bias, right? So this is taken from Canadian Constitution. And vesting of residuary powers in the center, appointment of state governors by the center, advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. So you can see the power, or see the strong power of center. This concept been taken from Canadian Constitution. Then Australian Constitution, concurrent list, freedom of trade, commerce and intercourse, and joint sitting of the two houses of parliament. So remember, concurrent list and joint sitting of two houses of parliament. These two important concept was taken from Australian constitution. Then Weimar Constitution of Germany, suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. So this concept is being taken from Germanian constitution, and from Soviet constitution, we are taking fundamental duties and the ideal of justice. So many other constitutions and concepts are also related. So I think these are the important ones. If some left out, you can comment me, right? You can comment from your knowledge. Okay. So today we have learned a lot of important information regarding our constitution, and most importantly, I wish all of Indian citizens, wish all of you a happy Constitution Day, and show Samvidhan Divas. This important day we today celebrate. Why? Just to promote the constitutional values, and or you can say the creating awareness among our citizens. So with this, I'm ending this session. Thank you very much.